Welcome to the Building PA Podcast, the voice of the construction industry throughout Pennsylvania. Here are your co-hosts, Chris Martin and John O'Brien.
Hello and welcome to the Building PA Podcast. I am your co-host, John O'Brien from the Keystone Contractors Association. Joined as always by fellow co-host Chris Martin. Hey Chris, what's going on today?
What's up, John? It's good to actually be next to you. Usually we're across the state, and here we are at a lovely job site in downtown Harrisburg. And hi everyone, this is Chris Martin. I'm with Atlas Marketing, and we tell stories for companies that build things. And as always, we got a cool story to tell today, right, John?
We do. We are on North 6th Street in good old Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, state capital. We are at the Bethel Village project.
Yeah.
The general contractor is JEM Group.
Yay.
There you go. And if you need a placement of this project, it's next door to the Jackson House. I'm sure everyone knows about that.
And being from Pittsburgh, I know the Jackson House. So if you have never been there, I encourage you to go. Free plug, go to town.
Yes. But we are surrounded by some of the brains of the operations here for this project and with the JEM Group. We just want to do a little round robin here and go around. Introduce yourself.
Andrew Noto-Francesco. I'm Vice President of Operations at JEM Group.
Josh Wine, Project Manager.
Ben Green, Assistant Project Manager.
Clayton Lutz, Senior Project Manager of the JEM Group.
Well, we got it all, man.
We did.
We've got everybody.
Hey, this is an important project.
Yeah.
I have the right team here.
It is.
It's an awesome project too. So we just got a tour of it. It's very amazing what's going on there.
What's amazing too is the thought that goes into everything here is pretty impressive. Not just, obviously the planning and the traditional construction steps, but all the thought regarding, energy levels and, just the way that the people that are going to live in this building are going to have a much better life. I think it was just impressive.
Yeah. So instead of hearing from us knuckleheads, let's hear from one of the brains here of the operation. Who wants to kick it off and set the stage here for this project?
So I will, as Andrew, just to give you a little details about the project. So how many units here, Josh?
49.
That's
49 units.
49 units of affordable housing that are being constructed on an existing pad site that was in its previous life, the Bethel AME Church. This project was part of a low-income housing tax credit round that was awarded, and the overall cost of the development is reaching almost $20 million. So that's site acquisition, design, furniture, fixtures, equipment, as well as the build value of the project. There's a lot of myths behind affordable housing. As we all know, everyone thinks this is like a Section 8 style housing where it's all subsidized. That's actually not the way affordable housing works. Affordable housing is designed around, investors investing money for tax breaks. Typically, they're banks and things of that nature. But ultimately, everybody who lives here has to meet a certain financial threshold, and it's anywhere between 60 to 80% of what they call AMI, which is really unique. But what's also really unique about these projects is how long they have to stay affordable housing. So you're looking at 40 plus years that these buildings must stay affordable. So the cost of construction is really high, but the quality is really, really important in affordable housing. So all the construction that is done by high-skilled, highly trained trade members that are knowledgeable in energy efficiency, advanced construction and framing techniques and technologies. And we're using some advanced, equipment and materials here on a project because, again, this has to stay an affordable housing project for 40 plus years. So that's a really important note. So all the construction from a quality level that goes into this is really fantastic. So you have to have a really dedicated group of trade contractors on site.
Yeah. So with that, obviously seeing the tour and seeing the facility and where it's going, the emphasis on energy, can you talk a little bit about what that means for the overall project? I mean, Andrew just said that it's got to be 40 years. What does that look like, Josh?
Well, the constructability, as we showed you guys inside, there's a tremendous amount of air sealing packages involved here, requirements and so forth, that fortunately we brought on board a subcontractor that had done a couple of these projects prior to us. So they were very knowledgeable as to what needs to happen, and we didn't have to hold their hands very much. The air sealing quality, each unit is essentially, each apartment is essentially its own envelope. There'll be a lot of air testing done at the end to make sure it's all sealed up. The exterior walls of each unit need to be sealed up, everything inside. It offers a lot of energy efficiency.
I'm going to ask you a question though. Air testing. That's not a very common step in this process, is it?
Correct.
I mean, in other projects that you've managed,
Right.
you're not air sealing
No.
rooms.
That is correct.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well,
Well, the air sealing process is quite strenuous because not let alone city inspectors, we got to have third-party inspectors inspect all this, and then they approve it, so the inspection process is longer. But at this way, all perimeter walls get sealed up from caulk to fire caulk, however, so no air can penetrate from room to room from outside, even from corridor to corridor. So then when we get that process, all our ductwork is tested, air tested, along with the actual room itself, which we'll do a blower door test. We got to meet certain regulations to fall under the Energy Star.
Wow. So for the listeners at home, that was Clayton Lutz. He's the assistant
No, it's senior project
senior
manager.
project manager. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
My apologies.
So just a quick question or a comment on that, Chris. That's a great point. So Clayton, on one of the last projects we did over at Riverton Woods, or is that at Point at Sporting Hill, did that reach a LEED level?
Yeah,
LEED,
silver.
Silver. So just based on the general design and construction, so we talk a lot about energy efficiency in these builds, but kind of harken back to some of the older folks that are listening to this, when LEED was really kind of the big thing for green. Taking this design and just flipping it over to LEED, it becomes LEED silver at minimum. So you're already meeting a fairly high category of energy efficiency right out of the gate just by the mandatory design. We're not buying any special plaques or anything special. It's really the inherent design and the processes that we go through to meet that level. So again, when you're driving by affordable housing communities that are being constructed today in the last decade in Pennsylvania, these things are built really, really well.
Yeah, it's almost like a passive house with the energy tightness and everything's
that's
rolled
right.
in, and that's the major myth when it comes. When I'm looking at this project, you look at the quality of contractors. These are contractors you see on healthcare projects, whatever, and that was a myth in my mind. So
Yeah. So you see,
amazing what's going on here.
Yeah.
Myth shattered.
Myth shattered. Yes.
Yeah, they can,
Well, like even going back to mechanical, our contractors have to have their own air testing equipment. And most of the ductwork is inside the envelope, so it's not up in truss cavities. So they're all bulkheaded off, so it does not allow any air to come into that envelope. So when they seal everything, they got to pressurize their own duct test before the third party shows up, because then they're sheetrocked in and they got to find their leaks prior.
So these projects are all third-party tested, and then I just want to make sure. I know I'm repeating myself.
No,
I'm
that's
repeating
fine.
what you just said, but that's an impressive stat. Like the fact that the contractors have to have their own equipment, and they have to understand how all of this is put into the envelope. That's
To
just so
achieve
unique.
These goals.
Yeah.
You're making them so tight, it's unreal. That a lot of them have their own humidifiers to bring humidity and then plus dehumidify at the same time.
Crazy.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
How about let's change gears a little bit here and talk about from a community aspect. How is this being embraced in the community, and any sort of outreach that's happened?
No, I mean, it's in my opinion, just simply standing outside, out along the street, sometimes walking back to my car. People simply passing by seem to be in huge support of this project. Word travels what it is and who it's for in the long run, and I think it's being supported tremendously by the entire community from what I can see. It means a lot to the folks around here. There's a church involved with the ownership group. Tremendous amount of support.
And what's amazing too is you have people that, like you, as we were touring this, you were saying that there's a long list of people that want
Absolutely.
to apply to be here. So can you talk a little bit about that process? Because I think
Sure.
that goes back to, not that we're trying to get away from the myth aspect of this, but that was something that also stood out from the community. I think there's a misunderstanding of what it takes to actually be to be a resident here too.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, can you take that one as far as the requirements, as far as folks that can?
Yeah, so Chris, I don't know how many applications they've received or whether they've opened applications for Bethel, but I can talk about some of the other projects. So at the time when when the developer opens up the application portal and allows people to apply, on the last couple of projects, we were 600 to 1,000 people that were applying. So there's a tremendous need here in South Central Pennsylvania. But when they make the submission, this isn't, just filling out a piece of paper and saying, I want to live here. But they have to prove out their financials. They have to prove out, whether they have a job or not, where money is coming from, because there still is rent due that needs to be paid. So again, this is not a full subsidized project in the sense where it's, the government is just writing a check. These folks and residents are actually paying to live in these communities. So there's a pride of, rental ownership, if you will, related to them. So you are engaging folks that are, that are working in your first responders or essential workers or warehouse workers that are working in the mid-state, that really need good affordable housing. These are great opportunities. And kind of going back to the quality piece, why do we spend so much money from a quality perspective and a quality control perspective is because the cost of maintaining these buildings has to be really low because they have to stay this way for a long time. Mm-hmm. So as people that own houses, we realize we pay a lot of money in utilities. So our energy bills are going up, our gas bills are going up, electricity is going up, our insurance is going up every day. It's really getting tight out there for folks. So the goal of these communities is to really try to fix those costs as low as possible so that people can live here for a long period of time. So they get really kind of this ownership mindset about keeping places clean and maintaining them and making sure they stay in really great condition. Additionally, each of these communities offer a full on-site management. So they're here, folks are here, and they also, a lot of these communities have wraparound services, whether that be, healthcare services or financial services or training and teaching services. So a lot of these communities are bringing in these wraparound services to help support these tenants and these residents long term.
So another myth here, you talk about other projects. There's a myth out there that this is only urban settings or urban, in the city.
Right.
And that's not the case. I learned today.
Yeah, not at all. So, right now, JEM Group has, we completed earlier this year 2 other projects over in Cumberland County, one in Hamden Township and one in Lemoyne. And we're building one out in Carlisle, outside of Carlisle on a greenfield site. So these are in some fairly affluent areas here in South Central Pennsylvania where there's a need. So the idea is diversifying that need and not just packing everybody into an urban area, but spreading out the help and the assistance across the communities. And we're building these buildings in good communities that have good school networks, that have good public transportation, and is close to jobs. Mm-hmm. Right? Those are some of the real important factors associated with them.
I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like literally, the idea being, yes, we're sitting in the middle of Harrisburg. We're 2 blocks from the Capitol, and the aspect of that. But the fact that these are being built all across South Central Pennsylvania in different areas, like that is probably to me the biggest thing that blew my mind today.
Yeah, it really is, and from talking again about all the help that we're providing to the communities, but also looking at it, we're all contractors, right? What does this mean for us? Right, there's good quality construction that's going on, that it's not just higher education, it's not just healthcare or government buildings. This is a developer-driven, wood-framed construction that is built with a high level of quality with advanced trades, right? And again, John, to your point, these are the same outfits that are working on, these big, really important projects. So the level of care that's being used on these projects is really second to none.
And if we can bounce around a little bit here, maybe talk about
sure.
the community and getting them engaged? Was there a process there at all? Or
Sure. Yeah, so on this project, we had certain diversity goals, right? And part of trying to reach those goals best we could was we hosted 2 outreach meetings to the local community. There was a goal called Section 3 also, where it's a goal to hire local folks within a mile radius of the project site. So within the immediate Harrisburg area. And part of the way we try to meet both of these goals was hosting 2 outreach meetings. One was in April of 23, about 3 or 4 months before we broke ground here on the project. And then the other was about 3 or 4 months after we broke ground. So it was winter, I think it was November of 23, if I remember correctly. But either way, the first one was hosted at the Chamber of Commerce, and the second one was hosted at the church that I mentioned previously that's actually involved in the ownership group. Both, we relied heavily on the church community to invite folks to come, individuals from the local area to come, to try to introduce them to not only us as the general contractor, but to our subcontractors too, which we had I call them our major subs, our HVAC, our electrical subs, framers, things like that. They had representatives that came. So as many local individuals that could come, the better. And we had them meet folks, whether they had a carpentry background, a plumbing background, whatever it is, to meet those appropriate subcontractors or ourselves as a general laborer or something like that. Okay, so we had 2 of those, and then we also obviously took applications to those, physical applications to those meetings to hand out to folks that came. And then you'll still see them out here, on the perimeter fencing we have 2 QR codes that we made small signs out of that'll take you right to our application. We also have it available in Spanish. So just let everybody know for the Spanish.
And the application isn't just directly to JEM.
Correct.
We work with all our trade partners that we could try to hire people and actually give them full-time employment. Okay. It wasn't just trying to hire someone to push a broom and just stand out there. It was actually educate them to try to keep them in the community with these companies. So our trade partners work with us, which you don't find that much.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was pleased with the turnout I had from my subcontractors there. It was great support.
Great team effort, it sounds.
Yeah, it was good. We have a good group of subs. I mean, not only, this isn't the only project we've done with them. We'll just say that, so. Yeah.
Well, and workforce development is such a big issue, and trying to get into the communities and try to help get opportunities like that. What's really interesting about this is you were looking for individuals, not companies, not more contractors, which I think even makes it even stronger. The fact that you're trying to find individuals who could work on this project or others to play.
Absolutely. And now, in the beginning part of through the bidding process, we were looking for the companies. You know what I mean? But you're right. Later on, it was more a focus on the local individuals.
Yes, Chris, to your point about workforce, right? It's the companies are established, right? The companies that are doing business are going to continue to do business, but we're all in the same pool. We're all pulling from the same group of humans to do construction work. It's how do we get more humans involved in what we do. So the Section 3 requirements, although somewhat challenging as it relates to what needs to be done, I think they're heading in the right direction, which is really trying to bolster up humans coming to work into the trades and into the business. And a lot of folks in these communities don't realize that the amount of money that can be paid and made in construction, right? And the life skills that you get out of it and how they're transferable. If you learn how to build a building here in Harrisburg, you can move to North Carolina. Yeah. Guess what? You can build a building in North Carolina now too, right? So these skills that you can learn, you can pick them up and take them if you want to move somewhere else. That's really important. So it helps people get out of potential situations that they're in, by just learning a trade. So we're really pleased with the opportunity that we had here and the numbers of folks that we were able to engage in our process.
That's great. That's because the more and more individuals get the opportunities to be exposed to the trade. I'm preaching to the choir. I mean, everybody's sitting across the room from me, and they all know this. Same with the listeners, you all know this too. But the aspect of people in the community understanding, like, hey, there are opportunities, and it's not just a matter of who you know. It's you just gotta pay attention and grasp those opportunities. So it's good.
And if I can preach to the choir too,
we're also a hands-on industry and like the highest retention rate amongst industry. So give people a taste of construction, and they're not leaving. So it's just giving them that taste is what you guys are doing. So
That's right. And when it's sunny and 82 degrees, everybody loves to be in construction.
yes,
Did you hear them in there today? They're
Everyone really enjoyed it.
but they are making a difference in our community, and,
Yeah.
and you guys are making a difference too with this building, which is awesome. And you actually helped. Speaking of giving a taster, you helped the Jackson House. You want to share that story? With the listeners?
Sure. So right next door, I mean, if you look out the backside of our project trailer, is the Jackson House restaurant, literally 5 feet from here. So Jackson House is a very well-known sandwich, burger, cheesesteak, hoagie shop in the local area. Every day there's a line out the door. So anyway, it's a stronghold in the community. Strong personalities run it, and I mean that in a good way. They're great people, family-owned. So beginning of the project, we determined through when we started site work and digging out there that their live sewer lateral left their building, crossed virtually the center of our lot that we're building the project on. And this was unknown, unmarked. Nobody had as-built. PA1 call, didn't mark it, nothing like that. So long story short, they had been having a tremendous amount of trouble with this sewer lateral anyway. Grease, buildup, clogs, so forth. So it needed attention no matter what. We managed to fix it for them and reroute it for them after we got CRW to approve our plans, and managed to give them a brand new sewer lateral leaving their restaurant. So it helped a lot. They're great people over there. Not to mention they got a lot of business from, I don't think they needed the business, but they got a lot of business from the guys.
And your workforce is appreciative of being
Exactly. Yes.
And a few inches wider on the way.
Yes.
I think the biggest problem is you can smell all the burgers and the cheese sticks and the fries, and it's just, it's killing me.
At about 9:30 a.m. every day, they cook their bacon and whatever else they're prepping over there. And you
What
can
are we
smell
doing?
it.
Promoting Jackson House? What kind of podcast is this? It's going to be the Food Network.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. What do you eat for lunch?
New questions. Job site snacks.
I like it. Oh, that's
So they've been fantastic throughout the project.
That's
Just
good.
say that.
That's awesome.
Great
That's
members.
great. That's good. Well, guys, I think we've answered all of the questions that we wanted to talk about, right, John?
I think so. Yeah.
So I just want to say on behalf of the podcast, Building PA Podcast, thank you all for having us here. It's been a great opportunity to see a project like this and the chance to help people in the future, in their future lives and move forward. So thanks, guys, for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Building PA Podcast. To stay up to date, follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and visit buildingpapodcast.com to subscribe to upcoming shows. Thanks for listening.